President Biden will address the nation in prime time tonight. He's expected to talk about the state of democracy in the U.S. and what the White House is calling a battle for the soul of the nation. The president is scheduled to speak at 8 p.m. Eastern at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. It's part of an effort to energize the Democratic base ahead of November's midterms and spells out why he thinks Republicans taking control of Congress is dangerous.
The way that he sees is the MAGA Republicans are the most energized part of the Republican Party. This is an extreme threat to our democracy, to our freedom, to our rights.
Last week, the president accused Republicans of semi-fascism. Some criticized the president for saying that, arguing that he campaigned on a pledge to unite the country. Ed O'Keefe is at the White House this morning with more on what we can expect tonight. Ed, always good to see you. So what do you think is going to be the major headlines that comes out of the president's speech tonight?
How hard he hits at congressional Republicans, as the White House press secretary previewed there. Look, he's been talking about restoring the soul of the nation, or the battle over the soul of the nation, since he declared his run for president back in 2019. So this is a continuation of a theme that's concerned him now for about 5 years. He's always cited the attack in Charlottesville, Virginia, the white supremacist rally that was held there on the campus of the University of Virginia and in that college town, as sort of what sparked his concern and his resolve to run for president and try to stop that kind of behavior and thought from spreading. It, of course, has become a big battle now between two parties, one that believes that it is sort of holding on to and trying to restore the principles of democracy, and accuses the other, Republicans, of trying to chip away at democratic norms. And so you will hear him tonight probably name check a few specific congressional Republicans. It's possible. He may not directly refer to them. He may infer some of the recent comments or situations involving key Republicans. But White House aides believe focusing on that wing of the Republican Party, and it's a growing wing, is something that could effectively help convince enough Democrats, swing voters across the country, maybe even disaffected Republicans, to come on over to the Democratic side and elect them to hold on to state houses, Senate seats, and House seats. And so by going to Philadelphia, which is a traditional political battleground, to make this argument in front of Independence Hall, where of course they wrote the Constitution, he's trying to drive home the point. This is an issue of concern, one that his party is best equipped to handle. And what's also notable, Lana, you look at our recent CBS News Battleground Tracker, more than 60% of likely voters now say issues of democracy or restoring democracy, threats to it, are a very important issue. And it's right behind the economy. Well, it's ahead of gun control, crime, and abortion. So it shows you how quickly that has become a real urgent concern for voters.
But Ed, as you say, it's right behind the economy. And so I'm wondering, as you say, it's rewinding almost to the election in 2020. Do Democrats feel like this is the most effective strategy rather than focusing on economic issues, which all the polls say is at the top of Americans' concern?
It is effective to be discussing it right now with about 70 days to go, when what you have to do in the short term for Democrats is gin the base, get them excited and motivated again. The reason the president's numbers have slipped below 50% and are mired in the 40s, sometimes the high 30s, depending on recent surveys, is because his support got soft among Democrats, among liberals, among left-leaning independents. By discussing the base core issues of concern, and you've seen him do it this week, abortion rights, gun control, and now concerns about democracy. When he name-checks climate change amid things like restoring the economy and addressing inflation, they believe that's the kind of stuff that can get base Democratic voters motivated. And then in a few weeks, as swing voters make their final decisions, as early voting begins, if it's still a big concern, shift the focus to the economy. But the other thing they're trying to do here is ensure that this doesn't become a binary choice between Joe Biden and Republicans, but that it becomes a binary choice between extreme House Republicans, Senate Republicans, Republicans running for governor, and Democrats who they believe are offering better solutions not only on the economy, but all these other issues of concern. So look, this is sort of a basic political strategic move here, designed to sort of change the focus from an unpopular president and economic issues, which they believe are improving, to concerns about an extreme Republican Party.
And we're going to hear from House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy giving a rebuttal to the president's address. What sort of response do you expect he's going to give then?
Yeah, a prebuttal. In fact, he'll be speaking about 2 hours before the president up in northeast Pennsylvania outside Scranton, where the president was this week and where former President Donald Trump is holding a campaign-style rally Saturday night with the Republicans running for Senate and governor in Pennsylvania. What McCarthy is doing today, and what's notable is that they're flagging this to the out-of-town press to let them know it's happening, is he's going to try to make the general anti-Democrat or anti-Biden argument that the economy, other concerns in this country have made things disastrous for the country, and that while the president wants to go out and name check and name call Republicans, he should be focused instead on those top issues of concern, the inflation and the economy and restoring America's greatness is essentially the argument he'll make. We have not heard much from Republican leaders in public or on non-Fox airwaves in recent weeks since the FBI search at Mar-a-Lago, so this is going to be one of his more high-profile appearances. Let's see how he's framing things for Republicans now in the wake of everything going on with the former president and ahead of the president's speech tonight.
All right, Ed, I know you'll be watching. I'm going to be watching. Thank you.
Take care.
And you can also be watching streaming President Biden's speech tonight right here on CBS News. That is scheduled to begin at 8 p.m. Eastern.